The king bought her as a bride, but she was a lost queen. He bought her to be his bride, never knowing she was born to rule him. King Darian Vale bought the girl with the strange eyes beneath a city with no name. The market was hidden under the old catacombs of Westmere, where the rich came wearing masks, the poor came in chains, and every sin was priced by candlelight. Darian hated the place the moment he entered. The air smelled of damp stone, old smoke, perfume, and fear. Men in velvet masks laughed softly behind gloved hands. Noble women examined prisoners the way they might examine horses. Gold changed hands quietly. Names were never spoken. That was the first rule of the Crimson Market. No names, only bids. Darian wore a black wolf mask and a plain traveling cloak. His royal guards were nowhere in sight, though 4 of them moved through the crowd dressed as merchants and drunk soldiers. No one knew the young king of Vulcan had entered the market. No one was supposed to know. His council believed he had come to buy a bride, a temporary queen, a woman with no family, no allies, no political debts, and no noble house behind her. The throne of Vulcan had grown unstable since Darian's father died. 3 noble families were sharpening knives behind smiles. His uncle, Lord Malric, had begun whispering that an unmarried king was a weak king. The High Council wanted Darian married before the winter solstice, or they would choose a bride for him. Darian had chosen a darker path. He would buy a woman from the Crimson Market, free her, and offer her a bargain. Marriage in name, safety in truth, a crown without a cage. It was a cold plan, practical, ugly. But Darian had been raised in a court where ugly plans survived longer than noble intentions. Then he saw her. She stood on a raised stone platform at the far end of the chamber, barefoot, wrists bound in silver chain, wearing a thin white dress that had clearly belonged to someone else. Her hair was dark, almost black, falling in tangled waves down her back. Her skin was too pale from confinement. A bruise shadowed one cheek, but it was her eyes that silenced him. One was deep green, the other was gold, not hazel, not brown, gold, like a coin held under fire. The auction master lifted her chin with a jeweled cane. This one was found wandering near the ruins of old Asteria, he announced. No papers, no memory, no kin, untrained, but beautiful. Rare eyes, rare blood, perhaps. The crowd leaned in. Darian's hand closed into a fist beneath his cloak. The girl did not lower her eyes. That was what struck him most. She was afraid. He saw it in the tightness of her mouth, the way she kept her breathing controlled, the way her fingers flexed against the chains. But she did not bow her head. Not to the auction master, not to the bidders, not even to despair. The auction began. A lord in a red mask offered 500 gold. A woman in pearls offered 7. Someone laughed and said, "She looks like she might bite." The auction master replied, "Some men pay more for that." Darian felt something cold and violent move through him. He stepped forward. 10,000. The chamber went silent. Every masked face turned. The auction master blinked. "My lord." Darian's voice was calm. 10,000 gold marks. The lord in the red mask laughed nervously. For a nameless girl. Darian turned toward him. "You may outbid me." The man did not. No one did. Even in the Crimson Market, 10,000 gold marks was not an offer. It was a command. The auction master swallowed and struck his cane against the stone. "Sold." The girl's eyes found Darian through the black wolf mask. She looked at him with hatred. Good, he thought. Hatred was better than surrender. They brought her down from the platform and placed the end of her chain in Darian's gloved hand. He stared at it. For one moment, the weight of the metal nearly sickened him. A king should never hold another human being by a chain, no matter the reason, no matter the plan. He leaned close to the guard holding her. "Remove it." The guard frowned. "My lord, she is not yet secured." Darian's voice lowered. "Remove it before I remove your fingers." The guard obeyed. The chain fell from her wrists. Red marks circled her skin. The girl rubbed them once, then looked at Darian. "If you expect gratitude," she said, voice hoarse, "you bought the wrong woman." Darian studied her. No accent he could place, no fear in the words, though fear still lived in her body. I bought no woman. Her mouth twisted. Then what did the gold purchase? Time. Before she could answer, screams erupted near the entrance. Darian did not turn. He had expected the raid to begin after the sale. His men moved fast. Hidden soldiers threw off cloaks. Blades flashed. The city magistrate's guards stormed the catacombs from 3 tunnels at once. Masked nobles ran in every direction. The auction master tried to flee. Darian caught him by the throat and slammed him against a pillar. The girl flinched, then stared as Darian removed his black wolf mask. The auction master went white. "Your Majesty." The chamber froze. The girl looked at Darian again. This time, not with hatred alone, with shock. The young king of Vulcan held the slaver against the stone and said, "By royal decree, the crimson market is ended." His men dragged the auction master away. Prisoners cried. Nobles begged. Guards shouted orders. Darian turned back to the girl. She was watching him. If he had become more dangerous, not less. Smart girl. He removed his gloves and offered her a cloak. Not close enough to touch, only close enough for her to take it if she chose. She stared at the cloak, then at his bare hand. Then she snatched the cloak and wrapped it around herself. "What happens to me now?" she asked. "That depends. On what? On what you choose." Her eyes narrowed. "I have found that men who buy women rarely care about choice." Darian absorbed the blow because he deserved it. "Then let me be very clear. You are free. You may leave tonight with money, an escort, and protection. Or you may come to the palace and hear a proposal that you are free to refuse." She laughed once, bitterly. "A proposal from a king. A dangerous one. At least you are honest. Rarely enough that people notice." Despite herself, her mouth almost moved. Not a smile. Something near it. "What is your name?" he asked. The question seemed to hit harder than it should have. The girl looked away. "I don't know." Darian went still. "You don't remember?" "I remember waking in the ruins with blood in my hair and no name in my mouth." Her voice tightened. "I remember men finding me. I remember chains. Everything before that is smoke." Darian looked at her strange eyes again. A green eye. A golden eye. Something old moved at the edge of his memory. An old royal banner. A forgotten portrait. A story his father had ordered burned from the schoolrooms. "What do they call you?" he asked. "The market called me Starling." "Do you like it?" "No." "Then we won't use it." Her gaze returned to him, wary and unwillingly surprised. Darian inclined his head. "Until you remember, may I call you Seraphine?" "Why?" "It means one who survives fire." The girl was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled the cloak tighter. "Seraphine," she repeated softly, as if testing whether the name would hurt. It did not seem to. "Fine," she said. "But if this is a trick, Your Majesty, I will cut your throat in your sleep." Darian looked at her bruised face, bare feet, and shaking hands. Then he said, "I would lock my door, but I suspect that would only insult you." This time, she almost smiled. The Palace of Vulcan stood above the capital like a crown made of black marble and winter light. Seraphine hated it immediately. Too many corridors, too many guards, too much gold pretending not to be stolen from someone. Darian gave her a chamber in the eastern wing, far from his own rooms and close to the gardens. Two women attended her, both older, both kind, both ordered never to enter without knocking. A physician came. Seraphine let him examine her wounds only after Darian left the room. That mattered. She hated that it mattered. When the doctor finished, he said she was underfed, bruised, exhausted, and otherwise healthy. "She needs rest," he told Darian in the hall, thinking Seraphine could not hear through the door. "I know," Darian said. "No questioning tonight. I know. No court visitors. I know. And if I hear that any man in this palace has treated her like property, I will personally poison his wine." A pause. Then Darian said, "Doctor, I believe that is treason. I am old enough to risk it." Seraphine sat on the bed and stared at the door. She did not trust the king, but she began, cautiously, to trust the people unafraid to insult him. That night, She slept for 14 hours. When she woke, there was a tray of food by the door and a folded note beside it. Eat first. Distrust me after breakfast. Darian. Seraphine read the note twice, then ate everything. The proposal came 3 days later. Darian found her in the palace garden, standing beneath a leafless fig tree, staring at a stone fountain shaped like a lion. She wore a borrowed blue dress and a grey shawl. Her wrists were still bandaged. Her hair had been washed and braided loosely over one shoulder. She looked less like a prisoner now, more like a storm pretending to be a woman. Darian stopped several paces away. You look ready to climb the wall. I was measuring it. And, to many guards, I can reduce the number. That would ruin the challenge. His mouth curved faintly. Seraphine looked away too fast. The smile bothered her, not because it was charming, because it was tired. She knew tired smiles. People used them when life had made sincerity dangerous. You said there was a proposal, she said. Darian nodded. Yes, say it. I need a queen. She stared at him, then laughed. Not softly, not politely. A sharp, disbelieving laugh that made the nearby gardeners look over and quickly look away. You are mad. Possibly. You raided a slave market to find a wife. I raided a slave market to end the trade routes running beneath my city. Finding you was unexpected. How romantic. It is not meant to be romantic. Good. Because it is terrible. I agree. That stopped her. Darian looked toward the fountain. My throne is unstable. My council wants me married to one of 3 noble daughters. Each would bring a family army into my bedchamber. My uncle wants me weak enough to control. I need a queen with no faction behind her. A nameless woman. A free woman. Convenient distinction. He accepted that too. Yes. Seraphine crossed her arms. And what do I get besides a crown-shaped cage? Protection. Education. A legal identity. Access to the royal archives to search for your past. And an annulment after 1 year, if you want it. 1 year. 1 year. And if I refuse, I give you money, guards, and the road out of the capital. Just like that. Yes, kings do not give things without hooks. Darian looked at her. No, we usually bury them where people cannot see. Where is yours? He smiled without humor. If you marry me, half the court will hate you by supper, and the other half, they will wait to see if hating you becomes profitable. Seraphine studied him. He did not look like a man asking for romance. He looked like a man asking someone to stand inside a storm with him. Why me? She asked. Because you looked at me in the market, like you wanted to survive more than you wanted to be saved. The answer entered her quietly. She did not know what to do with it. Seraphine turned toward the fountain. The lion's mouth spilled water into a frozen basin. For 1 second, the sound became something else. A hall. A throne room. People screaming. A woman's voice saying, "Run, my queen." Seraphine gasped. Her hand flew to her chest. Darian stepped forward, then stopped. Seraphine. The vision vanished. Only the garden remained. Only the king. Only her own heart beating too fast. What did you see? He asked. She looked at him sharply. How did you know? You went pale. I saw. She swallowed. Nothing. He did not believe her. He also did not press. That made her answer before she could stop herself. A throne room. Blood on white stone. Someone calling me queen. Darian went very still. What kind of throne? She looked at him. Silver, with vines carved into the back. The color left his face. For the first time since she met him, King Darian Vale looked afraid. What? She demanded. He said nothing. What throne is that? Darian's voice was quiet. The moon throne of Asteria. The name struck her like lightning. Asteria. Ruined towers under a red sky. A child crying in a hidden tunnel. A woman pressing a crown pendant into her hands. A man in black armor raising a sword. Seraphine staggered. Darian caught her before she hit the stone path. His hands closed around her shoulders. Warm, firm, careful. She should have pulled away. Instead, she clutched his coat. For one terrifying moment, she felt safe. Then she remembered who he was. She shoved him back. Do not touch me. He released her instantly. I'm sorry. What is Asteria? His expression closed. A kingdom. Ruins. Now. Why do I see it? Darian's jaw tightened. I don't know. That was the first time she thought he might be lying. The wedding happened 9 days later. It was cold, political, and beautiful in the way court events were always. Beautiful when built on discomfort. Seraphine wore ivory silk and the veil threaded with tiny silver beads. Her strange eyes were left uncovered because Darian said the court needed to see who they were choosing to underestimate. She had not known whether to be insulted or grateful. The nobles stared. Some whispered. Others bowed to deeply. Which was worse? Darian waited at the altar of the old cathedral wearing black and silver. A king's crown on his dark hair and no expression on his face. He looked cold, not cruel. Cold the way a blade was cold. Useful, dangerous, tired of being held. The priest spoke vows about unity, duty, bloodline, and throne. Seraphine repeated the words. Darian repeated them after her. When the time came for the kiss, she braced herself. A public kiss from a king who had brought her from darkness and placed a crown above her head. A court waiting to see if she would flinch. Darian leaned close enough that only she heard him. Your cheek or your mouth? Her eyes snapped to his. He waited. The entire cathedral waited. Seraphine felt the trap of every watching eye. If she chose cheek, the court would call her weak. If she chose mouth, they would think she had accepted the role too easily. Darian had given her the choice anyway. That angered her. It moved her. It confused her. My mouth, she whispered. His gaze darkened slightly. Are you sure? No, but I am queen now. Apparently, I should begin with a scandal. For 1 second, his mask almost cracked. Then he touched her chin gently and kissed her. It was meant to be brief, ceremonial. A soft pressure of lips, nothing more. But the moment his mouth touched hers, Seraphine saw fire. Not the fire of passion. Memory. A crown falling down white steps. A child's hand in hers. A woman screaming. A banner burning. And Darian's family crest. A black hawk over a broken moon. Seraphine pulled back with a gasp. The cathedral erupted in applause. No one else had seen the horror inside the kiss. Darian had. His eyes searched hers. What did you see? She smiled for the court. Her voice barely moved. Your family. His face hardened. That night, Seraphine became queen of Vulcan. By morning, someone tried to kill her. The first attempt came with tea. A silver cup was brought to her chamber by a trembling maid. Seraphine lifted it halfway to her mouth before Darian entered without knocking, crossed the room, and slapped it from her hand. The cup shattered against the floor. Dark liquid spread across the rug. The maid screamed. Seraphine rose so fast her chair toppled. What are you doing? Darian did not look at her. He stared at the tea, then at the maid. Who gave this to you? The girl sobbed. Lady Marrow's steward, Your Majesty. He said it was from the Queen Mother's stores. Darian crouched and dipped the tip of a silver knife into the tea. The blade turned black. Poison. Seraphine's anger vanished into cold. Darian stood. His voice became something terrifyingly calm. Take the maid to the physician. If she was used, she is protected. If she lied, she will tell me before noon. Guards obeyed. The room emptied. Seraphine looked at the ruined cup, then at him. Half the court hates me by breakfast. You were right. This was too fast. That is your concern. My concern is that someone knew which chamber servant would not be searched. She laughed once, though nothing was funny. You mean your palace is full of murderers? It is a palace. At least you are consistent. Darian's eyes moved over her face. Did you drink any? No. He exhaled slowly. Only then did she realize he had been frightened. Not visibly, not in any way a court would recognize, but in the tightness of his jaw, the whiteness around his knuckles, the way he had not yet moved away from her. You care if I die? She asked. His gaze lifted. I married you. For politics. Yes. That does not answer the question. No, he said quietly. It does not. The answer lived in the space between them. Seraphine looked away first. A week passed. Then two. Marriage to Darian Vale was nothing like Seraphine expected. He did not demand her bed. He did not enter her chamber without permission again after the poison incident. He gave her access to the royal archives. He assigned her a guard captain named Mara, who was scarred, blunt, and clearly instructed to obey Seraphine before anyone else. He also filled her days with lessons: court etiquette, Vulcan law, the noble families, trade disputes, military maps, the history of his own house, though that subject made him cold and short-tempered. Seraphine learned quickly, too quickly. Numbers stayed in her mind. Treaty language made sense. Border maps stirred memories. When an old counselor tried to humiliate her during tax discussions by asking what a market girl could possibly understand about grain levies, Seraphine answered with 3 corrections to legal citations and a question about missing tariffs that made the treasurer choke on his wine. Darian watched from the head of the council table, expressionless, but later, in the corridor, he said, "You enjoyed that." He looked like a boiled frog. "You did not deny it." "I do not deny obvious truths." His mouth twitched. "Remind me not to make you angry during council." "You make me angry most days." "Yet I remain alive. I am patient." Concerning. The conversations became easier. That was dangerous. Darian had a dry humor that appeared only when no one important was watching. He liked maps. He hated honey. He remembered the names of servants' children. He spoke little about himself and far too much about duty. At night, Seraphine dreamed of Asteria, a white palace built into cliffs above a silver sea, a garden of blue roses, a woman with her same mismatched eyes, singing in a language Seraphine almost knew, a little girl hiding beneath a throne, blood running down the steps, and always a man with the Black Hawk crest, Darian's crest. One stormy evening, she found the answer in the restricted archive. The record was hidden behind false taxation scrolls from 30 years ago. A lazy hiding place, or a confident one? Seraphine opened the leather-bound volume and saw the title. The Annexation of Asteria. Not liberation, not treaty. Annexation. Her pulse began to pound. She read 4 hours. Asteria had not fallen in civil war, as Vulcan histories claimed. It had been invaded, not by Darian. He would have been a child. By his father, King Alaric Vale. Darian's house had broken the Moon Throne, executed the royal family, and declared Asteria absorbed into Vulcan for regional stability. But one line made Seraphine stop breathing. The youngest princess was never recovered. Princess Selene Aster, age 6, distinguishing marks: 1 green eye, 1 gold eye. Seraphine touched a page. The room spun. Selene. The name opened something inside her, not gently. A locked door being kicked inward. She saw her mother kneeling before her, pressing a silver moon pendant into her hand. "Selene, listen to me. You must live. I'm scared." Queens are allowed to be scared. They are not allowed to stop. Screams. Smoke. A guard lifting her into a tunnel. A blade. Her mother falling. The Black Hawk banner rising over the Moon Throne. Seraphine hit the floor before she realized she had fallen. When she woke, Darian was there, not touching her, kneeling several feet away, eyes dark with fear. Seraphine. The name hurt now, because it was not hers. She sat up slowly. The open book lay between them. Darian saw it. Everything in his face changed. "You knew," she whispered. "No, liar. I suspected." The word struck worse than denial. Seraphine rose unsteadily. "Since when?" "The garden. When you described the Moon Throne. And you said nothing. I needed proof. You needed control." His jaw tightened. That too. At least he did not lie. Anger surged through her. She grabbed the book and threw it at him. He did not dodge. It struck his chest and fell open at his feet. "My name is Selene." He looked at her. "Yes, say it." His throat moved. "Selene." Her true name in his voice broke something open. She hated him for it. She hated that it sounded right. "You brought the heir to the kingdom your family stole." Darian closed his eyes for one moment. When he opened them, he looked older. "My father stole it." "You sit on what he stole." "Yes." That stopped her. She had expected defense, excuses, the old royal language of complicated necessity. Darian gave her none. "Yes," he repeated, "I do." Selene's hands shook. "My mother died on those steps." "I know. My father, executed 2 days later." She flinched. Darian's voice lowered. "I am sorry." "No." She stepped back. "You do not get to be sorry. Sorry is for broken cups and late letters, not for kingdoms." He bowed his head. "You are right." She wanted him to fight. She wanted something to strike. But Darian only knelt before the wreckage of history and refused to make it smaller. That made the room unbearable. "I want my throne," she said. Darian looked up. The words had surprised even her. But once spoken, they filled the archive. Not with ambition, with memory, with blood, with all the dead who had never received an apology because the winners wrote cleaner stories. Darian stood slowly. "If you claim Asteria, half of Volcairn will call you traitor queen. The Asterian provinces will rise. My nobles will demand your imprisonment. My uncle will use it to start civil war. Is that meant to frighten me? No, it is meant to prepare you." Selene stared at him. "What?" Darian stepped closer. "Your throne was stolen. You have the right to claim it, even from you." His eyes held hers. "Especially from me." For the first time, she had no answer. The air between them was full of too much. Betrayal, truth, the kiss at the altar, the poison, his hand catching her in the garden, the fact that he had never once touched her like she belonged to him. Selene turned away before her heart could confuse justice with longing. "Leave me." Darian nodded once. Then he left. She hated that he obeyed. She hated more that part of her wanted him to stay. The court broke open 3 days later. Selene did not hide. She entered the council chamber wearing silver, not Volcairn black. Her dark hair was braided with moonstones. A pendant she had found among the recovered Asterian relics rested at her throat. The old moon crest. Darian stood when she entered. So did no one else. Good. Let them show themselves. Lord Malric, Darian's uncle, smiled from his seat. "Well, our market queen has found jewels." Darian's voice cut across the room. "Careful." Selene lifted a hand. "No, let him finish. Small men often reveal more when they think themselves clever." The room went silent. Malric's smile hardened. Selene walked to the center of the council floor. "My name is not Seraphine." Murmurs rose. She let them. "I was born Selene Aster, daughter of Queen Illyra and King Marin of Asteria, last heir of the Moon Throne." Chaos erupted. Nobles shouted. One councillor stood so quickly his chair fell. Malric laughed. "A fantasy." Selene placed the archive record on the table. "Your fantasy has royal seals." Malric barely glanced at it. "A convenient discovery from a woman who wants a crown." Darian spoke then. "It is true." Silence fell. Every eye turned to him. Darian remained standing, face unreadable. "My father invaded Asteria under false claims of instability. He executed the royal family. He hid the survival of the youngest princess and erased the truth from our histories." Lord Malric's face darkened. "You dishonor your own blood." "No," Darian said. "I name it." Selene looked at him. He did not look back. He kept his eyes on the council. "The Queen has legal claim to the Asterian provinces." "The Queen," Malric hissed. "You would legitimize her. She was legitimate before I touched a crown." Something in Selene's chest tightened. The council erupted again. Malric slammed his fist on the table. "If she is Asteria's queen, then your marriage is a threat to Volcairn's sovereignty. You bought a rebel and crowned her beside you." Darian's eyes turned cold. "I freed a prisoner and married a queen." The words struck the room like thunder. Selene forgot to breathe. Malric pointed at her. "She's using you." Selene smiled faintly. Finally, a man in this room says something hopeful. A few younger councillors nearly laughed. Darian did. Barely. Malric saw it. And in his eyes, Selene saw the shape of the next war. That night, assassins came through the Queen's balcony. Selene woke to the sound of glass breaking. 3 men in grey masks entered her chamber. She rolled from the bed as a blade sliced through her pillow. Captain Mara shouted outside the door. "Locked." Of course. Selene grabbed the nearest object, a silver candle holder, and struck the first assassin across the face. He staggered. The second lunged. A knife cut her upper arm. Pain flared. She ran for the desk, pulled open the drawer, and found the dagger Mara had insisted she keep. The assassin laughed. "You know how to hold that, market girl." Selene turned. Memory moved through her hands. A courtyard. A guard teaching a child how to grip a practice blade. A queen's voice saying, "Not pretty, proper, again." Selene drove the dagger into the assassin's thigh. He screamed. The balcony doors exploded inward. Darian entered with a sword in his hand and murder in his face. He wore no crown, no cloak, only a loose black shirt and fury. The first assassin turned. Darian cut him down. The second attacked from the side. Darian moved like a man who had learned violence young and hated how well it suited him. Within seconds, 2 men lay dead. The third tried to seize Selene. Darian stopped, sword raised. The assassin pressed a blade against Selene's throat. "Drop it, King." Darian's eyes locked on Selene's. She saw his fear, raw, unhidden, not for his throne, for her. The assassin tightened his grip. "Drop it." Darian let the sword fall. Selene moved at the same time. She drove her heel into the assassin's foot, twisted beneath the blade, and slashed his wrist. Darian caught her by the waist and pulled her behind him before the man could recover. Then Captain Mara broke through the chamber door with 6 guards. The assassin was taken alive, barely. Selene stood shaking in the wreckage of her bedroom. Glass on the floor, blood on her arm. Darian's hand still at her waist. Warm, firm, alive. She should have stepped away. She didn't. His breath moved against her hair. "Are you hurt?" "Yes." His arms tightened. "Badly?" "No." He turned her to face him. Too close. His fingers lifted toward the blood on her arm, then stopped. Always stopping. Always waiting. It made her angry enough to hurt. "You can touch me," she snapped. His eyes flicked to hers. Selene's voice cracked. "I am bleeding, Darian. This is not the time for manners." Something broke in his face. He took her arm carefully and inspected the cut. His fingers were warm against her skin. The touch sent a tremor through her that had nothing to do with pain. He saw it. Of course he did. His voice lowered. "You're shaking. I was nearly killed. That would explain it. Do not become charming. I am angry with you." Noted. He tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped her wound. Efficient. Gentle. Too gentle. Selene watched his hands. The same bloodline that stole her throne. The same man who had stood before his council and called her legitimate. Both truths existed. That was the cruelty. When he finished, he did not release her immediately. His thumb rested near her pulse. Selene looked up. The room was full of guards, bodies, broken glass, and political disaster. Still, for 1 second, there was only the king and the lost queen. Darian said quietly, "I should have guarded your balcony." "You cannot guard every window." "I can try." "That is not strategy. That is guilt." "Yes." His honesty cut her again. She looked away. "Who sent them?" "My uncle." "You know." I recognize his cowardice. The captured assassin confessed before dawn. Malrek had sent them. His plan was simple. Kill the Asterian queen. Blame Asterian rebels. Force Darian to renounce her claim. Then pressure the council to remove him for weakness. It might have worked a week earlier, before Selene, before the archives, before half the council watched Darian name his father's crimes aloud. Darian wanted to arrest Malrek immediately. Selene stopped him. "He wants you angry." "I am angry." "I noticed. You are less cold when furious." That was not a compliment. It was not meant as one. They stood in the war room over a map of Vulcan and the occupied Asterian provinces. Her provinces. The thought still felt too large. Selene placed a marker on the city of Lumiere, old Asteria's capital. "If you arrest Malrek now, his allies scatter. We need them gathered." Darian watched her. "You are suggesting bait." "I am suggesting a coronation." His eyes sharpened. "No, you haven't heard the plan. I heard the parts where you become target-shaped." She looked at him. "Darian." "No, I am not asking permission. I am not giving it. Then we are equal in our refusal. His jaw tightened. Selene, he already tried to have you killed. So did your court, your market, and possibly your tea cabinet. I remain inconveniently alive. This is not a joke. No, it is my throne. The words quieted him. Selene stepped closer. I spent years without a name. Men sold me, dressed me, renamed me, married me, doubted me, hunted me. I am done being hidden for my safety. Darian's face changed. The anger did not vanish. It became something heavier. Fear with nowhere to go. I cannot lose you, he said. The words came out before either of them was ready. Silence. Selene's heart slammed once. Hard. Darian looked away. That was not political. No, I should not have said it. Probably not. But she stepped closer anyway. He looked back at her. The wall room fire burned low. Rain struck the windows. Maps rustled in the draft like whispered warnings. Selene lifted her hand to his face. He went still. Her fingertips touched his jaw. The intimacy of it frightened her more than assassins. Do you love me? She whispered. Or do you pity what your family did to me? Pain moved through his eyes. I have asked myself that every night. And his hand covered hers. I pity the child my father orphaned. I respect the queen who walked into my council and made old men sweat. I fear the woman who plans traps better than my generals. His thumb brushed her wrist. And I love you. Not cleanly, not conveniently, not in a way that repairs what my blood did to yours. But yes, Selene's throat tightened. The truth in him made everything harder. You should not. I know. I may take half your kingdom. It was never mine to keep. I may leave you. His voice softened. Then I will open the door. That was when she kissed him. Not because forgiveness had arrived. It had not. Not because the past was healed. It was not. She kissed him because he was the first man in her life who had power over her and kept trying to give it back. Darian froze for half a heartbeat. Then his arms came around her. Careful at first, then tighter when she gripped his coat and pulled him closer. His mouth was warm, controlled, until she parted her lips beneath his. Then control faltered. He backed her gently against the edge of the war table, one hand at her waist, the other cradling the back of her head so she would not hit the carved wood. Maps slid to the floor. Selene made a small sound into his mouth. Darian stopped immediately. Did I hurt you? No. Her voice was breathless. I hate how often you ask that. His forehead rested against hers. I hate that you had to learn why I should. The answer stripped the heat into tenderness. Selene closed her eyes, then kissed him again. Slower this time. When they parted, nothing was solved. But both of them knew the war had changed. The coronation of Queen Selene Aster was announced 3 days later, not in the Asterian capital, in Vulcan. That was the insult. That was the trap. A lost queen crowned in the palace of the family that stole her throne. With the king of that family standing beside her as witness, the noble houses panicked. Malrek's allies gathered like flies to honey. Asterian rebels sent secret messages. Some called Selene a puppet. Some called her miracle. Some called her traitor for marrying a Vale. Selene read every letter, then burned the cruel ones herself. On the morning of the coronation, Captain Mara entered her chamber holding a gown. Not white, not black, silver, Asterian silver, embroidered with moon vines and tiny stars. Selene touched the fabric. Where did this come from? Mara's expression softened. The king had the old royal patterns restored from archive sketches. Selene looked at her. Darian did this. Yes, the gown felt like memory beneath her fingers. Why did he not tell me? Mara shrugged. He enjoys suffering quietly. Selene almost smiled. Then she saw a small box resting on top of the fabric. Inside was a crown, not the moon crown, that had vanished when Asteria fell. This was new. Silver branches rising into a crescent shape. Simple and fierce. A note lay beneath it. Not replacement. Promise. D. Selene sat down because her knees could not be trusted. The coronation hall was packed by noon. Vulcan nobles on one side, Asterian witnesses on the other. Guards everywhere. assassins hidden among the servants. Selene knew because she had placed some of them herself. Not killers, actors in masks. The real assassins would reveal themselves, trying to find their own reflections. Darian stood at the base of the Days in Black, not royal red. He had refused to sit on the throne. Today, he said, it was hers. The priest asked Selene to kneel. She did. For no man, for a history, for the dead, for the child once hidden in a tunnel with blood on her shoes. The crown touched her head. A bell rang. The hall held its breath. Then Lord Malorek stood. There is one truth no ceremony can crown away. Darian's hand moved toward his sword. Selene stayed still. Malorek smiled. This woman may be Asterian by blood, but she became queen of Vulcan through purchase. Shall we kneel to a bride bought in a slave pit? Gasps filled the hall. Darian stepped forward, but Selene rose first. The silver crown caught the light. Yes, she said. The room went silent. Yes, I was bought. Malorek's smile faltered. Selene descended one step. I was chained beneath your city, while men with noble rings bid on my body. I was given no name, no choice, no dignity. And where were you, Lord Malorek, defender of royal purity? His face darkened. She stepped lower. You knew the market existed. Many in this room knew. Some of you traded there. Some of you profited. Some of you looked away because the screams came from underground and did not disturb dinner. No one moved. Selene's voice grew colder. If you think shame belongs to the woman who was sold, then you have misunderstood shame. Darian looked at her like he had forgotten the room. Malorek tried to speak. Selene lifted a hand. I am not finished. He stopped. That was the moment the whole shifted. Everyone felt it. Not Vulcan's bought bride. Not Asteria's lost princess. Queen. I was bought, Selene said. And then I was freed. But the men who built the chains remained comfortable. That ends today. She looked toward Darian. He nodded. Captain Mara gave the signal. The doors closed. Guards moved through the hall. Names were read. Ledger copies displayed. Nobles were arrested. Merchants dragged from behind silk curtains. And Lord Malorek, who had hidden behind outrage, was presented with the confessions of the assassins he sent. His face went pale. You cannot do this, he hissed. Darian finally spoke. No, she can. Selene looked at Malorek. You are charged with attempted murder of two crowned sovereigns, conspiracy against the throne, and participation in the Crimson Market. Malorek laughed desperately. You think this makes you powerful? You are still nothing but a lost girl wearing a crown someone else made. Selene smiled faintly. Perhaps, but you are the one in chains. He lunged, not at her, at Darian. A hidden blade flashed from his sleeve. Selene moved first. She stepped between them and drove the ceremonial scepter into Malorek's wrist. The blade clattered to the floor. Darian caught Malorek by the throat and slammed him to his knees. The hall erupted. Selene stood over the man who had tried to turn her shame into a weapon. Her voice was steady. Take him away. When it was over, when the hall emptied and the arrests began across the city, Selene returned alone to the throne room. The old royal throne of Vulcan stood on its black marble dais. Beside it, servants had placed a new seat, silver, carved with moon vines. She touched the armrest. It was beautiful. It was also complicated. Darian entered quietly. Too much, he asked. She did not turn. Yes, I can have it removed. No. A pause. Then his footsteps came closer. I thought you might want a place that did not ask you to sit in my father's shadow. Selene swallowed. You keep doing that. What? Making it harder to hate you. His silence was careful. She turned. He stood a few feet away, as if distance had become a language they both understood. I do hate you sometimes, she said. I know. I hate your name. Yes, I hate that your crest was in my nightmares. I know. I hate that I love you. The words entered the room and changed it. Darian went utterly still. Selene felt exposed, furious with herself, but she did not take it back. He crossed the distance slowly, giving her time, always giving her time. When he reached her, he touched her face with the back of his fingers. Selene, her name in his voice, no longer felt like a wound. It felt like being found. He kissed her, softly, too softly for how much the day had taken. She wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him closer. Darian's restraint broke with a quiet sound. His hands slid to her waist. Her back met the edge of the silver throne. The symbolism was almost ridiculous. She laughed against his mouth. He paused. "What? We are kissing beside the throne your family stole from mine." His forehead rested against hers. "That seems historically inappropriate." "Very. Should I stop?" Selene looked at him. The young king who bought her from chains. The enemy whose bloodline destroyed hers. The man who gave her archives, choices, crowns, and doors he promised to open. "No," she whispered. "But you should remember, I may still take your kingdom." Darian smiled. "Then I should stay close to the queen." He kissed her again. This time, there was no court, no market, no memory, only his mouth on hers, his hand warm against her back, her fingers in his hair, and the dangerous, beautiful truth that love did not erase history. It demanded they face it together. Months passed. The Crimson Market was dismantled stone by stone. The catacombs were open to daylight. Survivors were given names, homes, work, coin, and the option to disappear if they wished. Malrek's trial lasted 11 days. He was convicted on all charges and stripped of title. The noble houses learned quickly that Queen Selene remembered insults, numbers, and faces with terrifying precision. Asteria did not return overnight. No lost kingdom does. But its name was restored. Its archives reopened. Its language taught again in schools. Its old capital, Lumiere, became the seat of an autonomous crownland under Selene's rule, bound to Vulcain not by conquest, but by treaty. A treaty she wrote herself. Darian signed it in public, then handed her the pen. "Your turn," he said. Selene looked at the document, at his signature, at the space waiting for hers. For a moment, she saw her mother's blood on white stone. Then she saw something else. Blue roses growing again in the old Asterian garden. Children speaking a language that had survived in lullabies. Darian waiting beside her, not pushing. She signed, Selene Aster Vale. The name startled her. Aster first, Vale second. Not erased, not owned, joined by choice. That night, they returned to the palace balcony overlooking the city. Lanterns glowed below. The city looked almost gentle from above. Darian stood behind her, arms around her waist, his chin resting near her temple. She had once thought such closeness would feel like surrender. Now it felt like warmth. "You are thinking too loudly," he murmured. "I am thinking about crowns." "That sounds exhausting." "It is. Take yours off." She reached up and removed the silver crown. He took it from her and set it on the balcony rail. Then he removed his own. Side by side, black crown and silver crown caught the moonlight. For once, they looked like objects, not destines. Selene turned in his arms. Darian's hands settled at her waist. She touched the side of his face. "Do you ever regret buying me?" His expression darkened with old shame. "I regret that the world made it possible." That was not the question. He looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said. "I do not regret finding you." Her thumb brushed his cheek. "I do not regret being found by you." His breath changed, softly, as if her words had entered some place he never guarded well. He kissed her hand first, then her wrist, then her mouth, slow and deep under the winter moon. Selene leaned into him, feeling the strong line of his body against hers, the steady pressure of his hands, the careful hunger of a man who still remembered that love was not ownership. Below them, Vulcain slept. Beyond the mountains, Asteria waited. Between them stood two thrones, two bloodlines, two histories soaked in pain. But on the balcony, there was only Darian and Selene. A king who had bought a nameless girl to save his throne. A lost queen who had returned to claim her own. And a love powerful enough not to excuse the past, but brave enough to build something honest from its ruins.